just a reminder that I am very fat and very sexy, and I am 100% glorifying obesity, and there's nothing you can do.
Just because I'm fat, that doesn't invalidate the things that I say.
You know what it never was? That serious. It was never that serious. Quite frankly, would never be that serious. Never.
You know why being overweight is one of the smartest things you could do? Just imagine a zombie apocalypse and there's no food left. Overweight people keep all the food in their belly. Therefore, they would live longer than people who aren't overweight. I'm overweight. Of course I eat more calories in the morning than other people do in the entire day. I'm overweight. Of course I'm a VIP member at every restaurant, but not at a gym. I'm overweight, but I'm not alone. Every second American is.
This is your friendly fat reminder to tell you that this right here, actually, it's not called a fupa. This is a belly. And I'm a big bitch who weighs over 300 pounds, and I happen to have a big belly. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with being fat.
Hey besties, this is your fat babe reminder to eat that cheeseburger at the damn beach. That's right, I said it. Put that bikini on, take your food down to the beach, and snack your little heart away. I don't care if someone's looking at you. You've got to eat, right? So do they. Just because you're a fat babe on the beach doesn't mean you can't eat. Oh, and don't forget to take those bloody pickles off. Ew. Love you. Nom 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 nom.
This is just to remind you that bellies exist and are gorgeous.
Body positivity has encouraged so many people of all sizes to feel comfortable in their bodies, which is obviously positive. We all deserve to feel respected and have dignity. But I'd like for us to admit that straight-sized bodies look to be more and more represented in this space at the expense of seeing other body types, like the fat bodies that was originally created to centre and advocate for. So here I am to take up space in this movement, a cleanse for your body positivity feed, if you will, showing off my belly, my back rolls, my thighs, physical features that I'm oppressed for, vilified for, and hated for. I am body positive.
Things I hate as a fat person. Number one has to be those little, connected chairs at schools. Hello? So many straight-sized people complain about them, too, so. Number two is glasses, because, okay, the frames are never, wide enough, and they're always, splaying out the little arms. Number three is shopping at the grocery store, because we're all here to get food, but how come I'm the problem here? I just feel like all fat people, when they're going to the grocery store, are just people are looking at you and judging you, no matter what you get. If you get fruits and veggies, you're on a diet. If you don't, then that's why you're fat. And fourth is concert seating, because, oh my god, they are the narrowest things. They are, narrower than plane seats. They're, literally, and they're always, at, the highest peak. It's, almost a 90-degree angle of walking up to sit there. It's, are you wanting people to fall down? This is, actively discriminatory.
I would love if we could start listening to fat people and plus size people when they voice very real concerns and fears and insecurities. So for example, we've got into this trend of when a plus size person says, I don't want to go to the gym because I'm scared I'm going to be pointed at and laughed at. And it is met with, no one is going to be watching you at the gym because they're focused on their own workout. I wouldn't let it bother you. Or, I don't want to eat in public because I'm scared I'm going to get judged. What do you mean? No one's going to be watching you. No one's going to be watching what you're eating. I won't let it bother you. Or, so what if they do? Who are they to you? Water off a duck's back. It's not helpful. It's not helpful, right? Because first of all, I understand the sentiment where you're saying like no one's going to be watching me, but unfortunately it's just not true. Because the reason why a lot of these fears and insecurities exist for fat people is because they've already happened. They've already happened, and we don't want it to happen again because it's not fun. It's horrible to have to deal with it. So you saying no one's going to be watching me or people are just going to be working on their own workouts isn't 100% true, and it sucks that it isn't. I wish it was. It isn't, okay? But then also the idea that the only way I can battle this is by, saying, oh, well, these people shouldn't, you shouldn't let these people bother you in that way. That requires so much confidence that not everyone, and I mean everyone, not just plus size or fat people, I'm talking about everyone, struggles to make. To get to a point where you don't mind being like outwardly laughed at and mocked at and pointed at in public is an incredible level of confidence to obtain. Now, marry that with this idea that if you are fat, you've grown up your entire life having your confidence beaten out of you. And if you have any confidence now, it's because you've worked so hard to get there and having to dismantle all of that fat phobia and all of that diet culture in your head. I get it. And I salute you for getting to that confidence. But what I'm trying to say is, the world hasn't helped you get to that level of confidence. You've had to do it yourself because the world has told you that you're ugly, that you're not deserved of love, you're not deserved of respect, you're not deserved of even equal healthcare. You are a drain on our resources. That's one of the things that gets thrown at me a lot. So the idea that that person who has been hearing that their entire life is now also meant to have the level of confidence so that they don't get bothered by people outwardly laughing and mocking them in public spaces, well, that's fucking shit. That's a really hard task that you're asking these people. And I don't know what the answer is. But I think the first step is we have to admit that these things happen. So when a plus size person says, I'm scared about going to the gym, your answer isn't, oh, no one's going to be watching you. It's, I hear you, and that's a really valid fear to have. It sucks that it's valid, but it's valid nonetheless. And let's start from there and work our way forward.
Something that I don't think people understand about being fat is like the ways in which this shows up in dating. Because I get a lot of comments here from like, incel, dude, bro, gym, basement dwelling, whatever. You know the type, trolls. And they're always like, well, no one would ever have sex with you. No one would ever date you. And that's not quite true. It's more like you're just very aware that your options are limited, or that the ways in which you get approached are limited, or that like the things that are available to you more readily are limited. And I've been in a relationship for 4 years, but I still experience a lot of this because you can just feel that like you are not seen as valuable in the dating space. I know people say marketplace and that feels dehumanizing, but like to a point it's true. Like more than anything, what it is an awareness that like your stock is low and that a lot of women have a power in having higher stock, I guess, that they can use to, get things for free or get men to do things for them. Like I am aware of that even as somebody who is in a relationship. I am not looking for love. I have love. I am not necessarily looking for any of those other things either. I'm just aware that they're not available to me and that is one way in which my body does limit me. And I think when you're a smaller fat person, you may be even more aware of this because it seems weird when your size does not exclude you from a lot of other things in life, that it would still exclude you from this. Like, if you can do all these things, like you can fit in airplane seats, you can travel, you can go on amusement park rides and have fun that way. Like, if you are not big enough that your size isn't preventing you from doing a lot of things, it can certainly be something that feels like a sticking place. And that has very much been my experience as a small fat person for my whole life. And I have realized as I've gotten older that like, I actually have so much privilege in that this is the main way that it has showed up. And the weird thing is, being fat doesn't preclude you from finding love or a relationship or getting married. It doesn't preclude you from having good sex or like exploring sexuality, but you are still probably materially going to get approached less than your thin friends. You are still going to have the awareness that there are a lot of people out there who won't date you or won't date you openly because of your size. You are still going to witness conversations where people talk about how dating somebody who looks like you or going on a date with someone who looks like you is their worst fear, and they find it personally insulting. And that's just a lot for the ego to take, no matter how much other privilege you have or how many aspects of it you do still have access to. There is like such an ego wound in me from like years of this, that being in a relationship, no matter how happy and successful, like does not take that away. The older I get, the more I realize these differences are kind of subtle and that they are like not necessarily that impactful on your material reality and like day-to-day life and happiness, but it's an ego wound and it hurts and it feels like shit. And then you're still subject to all the treatment that single people get in the world of like, why can't you find someone? And like, they're out there, just keep looking. And it feels so hopeless because you're told over and over again, and your life experiences very possibly support that you are not a desirable person to be with. But think about it this way. None of this would be a big deal if we didn't think about conventional attractiveness and desirability as being so central to a person's value, that like women literally measure their value off of that, and feeling like you don't have the thing that's like the number one source of value and power for women, it feels terrible. I do think in the grand scheme of things, it's not as big a deal as other forms of discrimination, but it feels so uniquely terrible because you feel like you're also failing at your gender.